past weekend I went to Montreal, and my friends and I, we were harmonizing together.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a demo here, or?
Let's do. So you have to go.
Oh, I can harmonize. What do you want me to do?
La 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 la.
And what do you want me to do, higher or lower?
Whatever you want to
Oh.
do. La 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 la.
No? What?
La 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 la.
No, that was off. Sorry, I was off.
La 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 la. Beauty.
La 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 la.
La 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 la.
Is that what you're doing?
I don't know what I'm doing.
I think we just lost like 16 subscribers.
Yeah, at this point, make it 17.
Oh. All right, so we're switching things up a little bit this week, and we're going to have a guest co-host on today because Katie isn't feeling the best, and she said the show must go on, and, wishing you all the best, Katie, and hope that you feel better soon. So, yeah, I have Ivanna here. Ivanna, I'm probably going to mess up pronunciation of your last name. Hreshchuk?
Very close.
Very close?
Very close.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Introduce yourself.
Hello, world. My name is Ivanna Hreshchuk, so you almost got it.
Yeah, I didn't almost get it. I butchered it. Yours sounded way better.
I've gotten Hershey Chunk, and I've gotten...
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of variations, so kudos to you.
Thank you. I mean, I just have to deal with people saying Durgy instead of Durgy, but I mean, getting called Hershey Chunk, I don't think I'd like that very much.
It's okay. It means I'm sweet.
Yeah. Aw, that's a good way to look at it. So
yeah, seriously, get my name right.
Yeah. So Ivanna is guest co-hosting today. She's listened to all of the episodes of the podcast, and
I actually have. There's been times where I was at work and I'm just caught chuckling, and then people just look at me a weird way, but they know me, so they know that okay, so she's okay, but
she's just doing her own thing. It's just Ivanna, let her be.
Actually though.
So Ivanna and I have been friends for a bit over a year now.
Yeah, we've traveled to... Where did we travel to? We've been to a few places together.
Yeah.
At our last place.
We worked together for a bit at a startup, and we planned some content shoots and things like that. At the time, Ivanna was art director there, and I was a communications manager, and we went to Alberta.
Calgary.
Yeah, Calgary.
Went to Calgary, we did Banff, and then we also went to Niagara Falls.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Should we tell this?
Shout out to Niagara Falls.
Should we tell the story about Niagara Falls?
Wait, what story though?
Okay, I'll tell it, and then if you don't like it, I'll have to cut it out. But basically, we went to Niagara Falls, and we were working for an animal-free Canadian outerwear company, and so they don't use animals in any of their products. So we're at this vegan festival. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I know exactly where you're going with
Should I continue?
Yeah, it's a good one.
So we were at this vegan festival, and
I was training you. Remember that?
Yeah.
I was training you how to do all these things.
She was training me, but the whole car ride up there, we were just having chats about boys, and that's when we bonded.
Boys, girls, everything, left, right, and center.
Just whatever, just love in general, my favorite topic. And so we get there, and there's all these vegan vendors, like selling vegan food. And, we try some things, but at the end of it, we both turn to each other, and we're just like...
mind you,
yeah.
We worked our asses off. Can I swear on this, by the way?
You can say ass, yeah.
Okay. Is this censored?
I can censor it if you go too far.
Okay. I'll try to keep it PG-13.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. But we can say ass.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were working our asses off all day, eating vegan food, which was great because I know Elliot's listening to this. We had a
Shout out Elliot.
Yeah, we had a great experience.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, I remember we were so hungry.
So hungry. But it wasn't just hungry for more vegan food. We turned to each other, and I go to Ivanna, I feel really bad, but I'm craving like a big ass burger. Like double or triple beef, like just like a big burger from Wendy's. Can we, when we finish this, on our way home, go through a drive-thru and get like the most meatiest sandwich ever? And what did you say?
I said, absolutely.
And she also said, she goes, I was thinking the exact same thing. And that's when we bonded.
Actually though.
So that was fun. But yeah, Ivanna has been listening since the start. She actually listened to our episodes before any got published, just to get her feedback. And also, this is a fun fact. The logo that you're looking at on your favorite podcast player was created completely by Ivanna, because she, like I said, she has experience being an art director, but she's also a graphic designer and a multidisciplinary artist, and an award-winning artist at that.
Stop.
So, I mean, the fact that she created our logo for free, I mean, for a couple, we
Pro
took you...
bono. We'll say pro bono.
We took her out for a couple drinks, but basically for free. I mean, she can charge a pretty penny, and she did that because she loved the podcast and she really believes in what we're doing. So I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you. No, honestly, I remember when you reached out, you said, hey, I'm doing this as a side hustle. And me being someone who's working on a side hustle, I listened to the Don't Screw the Crew episode, which shout out to Katie. That was honestly probably my favorite line that I've ever heard.
Yeah, what was the line?
Don't Screw the Crew.
Oh, so it was the title. Okay.
It was the title, because I even remember listening in the episode, you were like, that's a good title.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was hooked.
And in that episode, I mean, you know, listeners, you probably have listened, but we basically talked about how you shouldn't really hook up with coworkers. So we're sipping on our IPA. We got to do a classic cheers. Oh, that wasn't that good. Oh. That was a little bit better. Aluminum cans. We're drinking Bone Shaker, not sponsored. How is it?
Honestly, let's can do this. I think that's what I'm feeling. I was about to say let's get f***ed up, but I don't know if we can say that.
No, I mean, either of those variations are both going to be censored. I like how you thought one may be censored, but the other one won't be.
Yeah, I know. I took a second there. Can I? Okay, no.
So I wanted to talk about how you started as an artist, because this wasn't necessarily something that you were always like, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to be successful at this. Maybe you did it on the side, but didn't sound like something where this was everything that you were doing. It kind of came about through different experiences, right?
100%. And I'll gladly hold this now, because the whole time Ryan's been awesome and just being the microphone holder. So
Katie doesn't like me being the microphone holder when we had to deal with one mic there for a little bit.
Totally random how all of this happened. It's exactly like you put it. I didn't, have this whole dream of I'm going to be an artist. I was a kid, I wanted to be an F-16 pilot, and then that kind of failed when I didn't go to pilot school. So then I'm like, what's the next thing? So basically went to a creative program in university, and from that I just started to fall in love with graphic design as I went through with it.
Sorry, I just did the same thing.
Okay.
We literally just burped in sync, and we both turned away at the same time and burped.
Well, because I know that it's the sound, every time I've heard Katie burp or something.
Yeah,
it's
cringe?
Not cringe, it's like, yeah.
Oh.
You need to do that, You need to cringe. No, so all of this started back in 2015. I went to New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand. You're awesome. And I lived there for about 6 months for exchange. And then essentially after that, I had a couple girlfriends in Australia, and we just decided, hey, we have time before school starts again. And we just decided, hey, let's go travel and let's backpack Southeast Asia. And at the time, I already knew that I was going into my 4th year of university, so I had to think about doing a final university thesis. And so I had that in the back of my mind, but obviously when I was traveling, I wasn't thinking, what am I going to do for school and everything. And then I ended up going to Vietnam, and I went to a place called Sapa. My friends would always laugh at me because I would call it Sapa, but I think it's called Sapa. Okay. But I still have to figure out what the name is. But shout out to Sapa, Vietnam. A lot of shout outs on this episode.
Well, also, if anyone is from Sapa out there and we're pronouncing it wrong, then let us know.
Actually, though, ended up having such an incredible experience out there. I had a homestay with this local 18-year-old girl named Z. At the time, she had 2 kids already, and we just were off the grid, had no cell phones. Everything died. Our phones were dead. Our cameras were dead. But the only thing that survived was my GoPro. So I documented the entire experience on this little thing. I remember after that experience happened, we were just sitting, waiting for our bus to go back to Hanoi. And I obviously charged my phone, saw the photos, and I knew that I needed to do something with this experience. I didn't know what it was going to be. I think at the time, at first, I was thinking I'll just get stuff printed on t-shirts or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was the beauty of going into my final year of university with the thesis, was that I was able to explore that concept. And so...
Explore the concept of how you were going to showcase your photos?
Yeah, so not only showcase the photos, I think what I was more motivated to do is really show that story. But for me in particular, I'm a very visual thinker.
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to showcase the story in a visual way through the photography. And I guess you can kind of see where I'm going with all of this.
Yeah.
And so essentially went to my final year of university and then had about a year to really explore what I was doing. And so it all basically started with my thesis question, which was how can I create awareness of a place through branding and product design to alleviate poverty. So basically took a year where I was just sifting through all these photos, iterating all these different types of ideas, and I had an amazing thesis teacher who to this day is my mentor. So shout out to Tanya. I swear, if I didn't have her as my thesis teacher, I think I would be lost. And so really, I think that's another important thing, that in my final year of university, when I was trying to do all these things, I had an amazing teacher who to this day, when she comes home, because she was doing her PhD actually, which is super inspiring, we get coffee, we're friends and all that. So honestly, I had a really great mentor.
Yeah.
And I have a life mentor, which is so important. And really, I remember I came to her in a flurry of all of these different ideas, and she really, helped me scale down and figure out where I should go with everything. And so really what was born was my art technique. So what I do when I say I'm a multidisciplinary artist is I take my photography and I layer it together to create installations.
Yeah.
And really I print on a sheer fabric. So when you see through it, you can see the multiple different layers. And that was the whole premise of my thesis, was creating this story that people can kind of come with me on the journey.
And by the way, just from someone that's seen it, because it's hard when we're talking over a podcast, you're doing a great job at describing it. Seeing your artwork in person, it's very unique. Like my whole family,
Thanks.
I knew about this for a year because you did the first exhibit last year, and then my family came to your exhibit this year, and everyone was just in awe of how amazing and unique it was, because it's photography, as you said, but it's printed on these almost like thin layers of fabric, and then it's layered over top so that it tells a story with the different layers. You have to see it in person, because it's like combining all these different layers of nature with people and with their stories, and it's cool because it reminds you of the layers of people and their stories and life in general. And I mean, everyone's gonna have a different perspective of it, but it's just so interesting. And even when I came as your friend, I was like, oh yeah, I'll say hi to Ivanna real quick and then I'll move on. I had to wait like 15 minutes just to talk to you, because everyone was so obsessed with your art at this art fair in Toronto. And it was the Toronto, let me just make sure I get this right, Toronto Outdoor Art Fair,
Yes.
right? And they were obsessed, and I had to wait to talk to you. You were the local celebrity there both years, and the one year you actually won. You actually won. She's not going to brag here, but I'm going to brag for her. She won the Founding Chairman Award.
Because I get this question all the time, how did you do this and everything? And that's where I always bring in the school aspect, is this was all done through trial and error. This is my favorite story to talk about. Number one, the pictures that I took, I didn't see them because the GoPro that I have, it doesn't have the screen. So I was just taking pictures just to remember the experience as much as possible. Then, sifting through all these photos, coming up with this whole idea. I had my fingers crossed the entire time because, mind you, it was my thesis. So I still was getting graded for this, but I took a chance and I basically worked up until that last print deadline. Shout out to all the designers out there who know the struggle of getting that print deadline.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just happened. It came together and it worked. And so what Ryan's talking about was last year I showcased my thesis at the Toronto Outdoor Art Fair. It was the 57th rendition. Actually, fun fact, it's the longest running art fair in Canada.
Wow.
Number one. Started 57 years ago at a parking lot. It's grown to Nathan Phillips Square now, to over 360 artists. It's massive. So basically last year I went into Toronto Outdoor Art Fair and I said, okay, well, I'm just going to showcase this art and just see what happens. And really, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I just, when you go to the fair, there's so many amazing artists there. They have, all different types of mediums and everything. And, I just propped up my thesis and just was telling people my story and really bringing them, because the piece that you saw was 360. All of my pieces are 360, but this was that one giant installation. So I would take people through the journey, and I told them the story of Z and Sapa in Vietnam. And really, the Friday they do judging for awards. And I, at the time, didn't know that one of the ladies I was talking to was the founding chairman's daughter.
Oh, wow.
So she took over the role of, judging what is the best, in her opinion, of the fair. And so, I took her on the journey, and I didn't know who I was speaking to, because I was talking to so many people. And then I think about the time you came, remember that day?
Yeah.
I got a slip saying, hey, you won an award, and you have to go on stage right now. So I'm like, okay. I was already shortlisted for an award, but, you don't know what happens with these things. So then I'm on stage, I'm sitting there, and, they're going through all the categories, and they go through the category that I was shortlisted for, and I don't get called. And I'm thinking I'm on an episode of Punk'd. Like, what's going on here? Am I just, sitting, waiting, whatever? And it was a really emotional moment, because I'll never forget when the announcers said, okay, we're going into the top 3 awards of the festival. And, the first award goes on, and then the founding chairman was the second award. And I remember the lady, because she had a cowboy hat, and I saw her on stage talking. Oh. And at that point, 2 and 2 comes together, and I'm just, I have no idea what's going on. And Tiana Bauman from the Koffler Art Foundation. I'm butchering the name, but her parents started the Foundation for Arts. She reads my name as the founding chairman award winner, and honestly, the rest was history. Wow. At that point. And yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, just the fact of you went on this trip not thinking that, hey, you were going to be sitting downtown Toronto and winning the founding chair.
You know what I was thinking, Ryan? I was thinking I'm going to go have a margarita on the beach, relax.
Maybe post some on Insta.
The whole 9 yards.
And we're going to talk, speaking of Insta, we're going to talk about social media cleanse in just a little bit. I wanted to, before we move on from the art piece, which I find really interesting, because I feel like art, as much as we all love it and crave it, it's not talked about enough. I do want to ask you, do you believe that art imitates life?
Ooh, that just got deep. I'm not ready for that.
You need another bone shaker.
Yeah, well, let's do a cheers to that.
Okay.
So the question is, do you believe that art imitates life?
Yeah, like a lot of people say that people's art, whether it's music or visual or drawing or whatever it may be, or directing a movie, that it imitates a lot of the times what they've experienced.
So, having some time to think now, I don't think art necessarily imitates life. I think, if anything, it's just another form of it, in the sense that, as artists, and everyone's an artist, and anytime I talk to someone, whether it's at the fair, what do you do? Oh, I'm not... Everyone is an artist in their own sense. And really, it's just a form of an expression of who you are. There's oil painters, and they express themselves on a canvas. There's musicians where they think of a beat. They have this beat, and then they make it come to life. So it's not necessarily an imitation, but I think it's just an iteration and a form of who you are in whatever the physical sense may be, whether it's a song or a painting or a photograph or whatever,
Mm-hmm. I love that. And it's interesting because I did media relations as part of my public relations program for an art show. And that was literally the tagline that I remember proposing to the group, which is, well, we were working as a group. So whether I proposed or someone else in the group proposed it, the whole idea was that everyone's an artist, and we went with that when we were promoting the show. And I think it's so true, is that people are creative. It's just they need that outlet to be able to express themselves.
100%.
I want to actually touch on one more thing with the art piece. You've used art when you've gone through difficult times, and you talked about this when we were preparing for this episode about how, you know, life can flip things up and throw you a complete curveball, and art came to you at a crucial point in your life when you're going through some stuff. Can you speak a little bit more to that? We just saw a special guest, by the way, a squirrel run past real quick. I think he wants to co-host.
Yeah, at this point, come over here, squirrel. Get at me.
Shout out to the squirrel.
Yeah, so life throws you curveballs sometimes, and I think you just have to, you either go one way or the other way. And like Ryan was saying, for this year, I mean, okay, here's the backstory about this. So obviously winning one of the top 3 awards last year, part of that award, I got guaranteed entry into this year. And so really, I had this mentality of, okay, I'm coming back. You know, people saw me last year. What do I do? Do I do the same thing or do I do something different? And obviously, me being me, I decided, okay, I don't want to do the exact same thing, because I think with my art form, it's always trial and error. Anytime I try doing something, it's always just, let me see what happens. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then oh well. You know, there's a couple $100 down the drain, but oh well. And so really, with this year, I decided, I got into meditation. And so that was like a huge driving factor for me. So I started meditating and I really started practicing mindfulness. And there was something so beautiful about just kind of shutting off and, you know, no technology, nothing around you. And so that really inspired me for my art this year. And so I was thinking, okay, well, I have meditation that's been really just helping me become more mindful. How can I express that in art? And that's really what was the theme for this year for me. And, you know, I put a travel ban on myself, obviously, this year. So I don't have any photos to show for, but I did have my New Zealand photos that were sitting on a hard drive. And so that was the main imagery that I used. So it was a lot of nature, because I think nature and mindfulness, they go so hand in hand. Yeah. I don't think never met anyone who was saying, oh, you know, these mountains, they were really weird.
Yeah, that's true. And if that person exists, no shout out for you.
So basically the theme for this year was, how can I bring mindfulness through art? And so really what I decided to do was create a safe space, which was my booth, and really do something different, because I'm used to doing, let's say, 8 panels layered together. And so this time I decided to scale it back a bit. And what if I did just 2 layers for each art piece, but do multiple different ones and see if all of them kind of could come together cohesively? And really that was the whole premise of this year. And while all of this was kind of happening, there's something personally that happened to me that really kind of threw me off guard, you know? And there was a point where I was just so beaten down and I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I said to myself, you know, I could either go for this or I could just stay in this slump. And I think that's where art really helped me through a tough time, because this is already something that I love to do and I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And, you know, it really, I told you, in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, I edited my photos, sent everything to print, you know, worked really hard. My mom helped me. Shout out to my mom, and my dad helped me too. So family, you guys all always are there for me. And yeah, just brought everything together. And then what you saw at the fair this year, I'm happy to say that I won another award this year, and then my whole collection sold out, which was great.
Well, it's amazing. And I think that, like, you know, the fact that doing this art and bringing it together, and you had the family support when you're going through a tough time, and you had your art, you know, as that piece to show that you even though you're going through a tough time, you had so much to offer. And that was displayed in your art, and also the attention that you got on the show and the award that you got at the show for a second year in a row to get another award. And I think that it's important for people out there, even if they're not someone that, creates art in whatever that is, whether it's music, art, movies, whatever it may be, even consuming art can be therapeutic, I would say. And I think that that's important, is for people to go to shows like that, or to take themselves out to a movie. And it is therapeutic to get yourself out of the mindset of everyday life and explore something different.
Yeah, and I think that just, I guess we'll tie into that point of the social media cleanse, because obviously while all of this was happening, I took it upon myself to really, I don't want to say isolate in a negative way. I isolated my brain to just focus on my art. And so I deactivated my Instagram, I deleted Snapchat, I deleted a bunch of different things that I just found were distracting. And I just really focused on just getting done,
Yeah. And you know what? I've tried to delete the social media before, but I do like it to interact with people. I can see why it's beneficial. For me, it was deleting the dating apps. I had it for like a week because my friends were like, get back on it.
Come on, Ryan.
No, but it's true.
What did I tell you about those apps?
Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute as far as your dating advice to me. But I just want to say that for me, that was deleting the dating apps, because it's so true that like I was so focused on my career, and then maybe I had a weekend where I wasn't really doing much, and I just decided to download the apps again, and it just takes away from what you're doing. And then I deleted them again. I'm like, let me focus on it. There's a lot going on in my career.
In this perspective,
yeah,
it's work to be thumbing through all of the stuff, and you're
thumbing through,
and you're
it's true. No, it's true.
And you're not getting paid. Why would you do that? Just go to a bar and just start talking to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The old-fashioned way.
You sound like Katie Jones right now.
I know. You know what? Every time I heard her say that advice, I'd just be like freaking doing fist bumps in the air.
Oh. Okay, so I think I've been replaced, and I think Ivanna and Katie are just going to do their own podcast. But I want to, the social media cleanse, good on you for doing it. How much longer do you think you're going to last with that?
The plan can be indefinite. Obviously, I'm going to want to see what happens, but no, you know what, that's the thing. When you do a cleanse, you don't think about the end game. You delete everything, and you just focus on yourself, and you find that you have way more time. I loved when I got that notification about screen time. That screen time went down, and I was just like, okay, cheers, I'm just gonna drink a beer to not being on my phone. You feel better, because you don't have to see what XYZ's doing, or what food someone. I mean, I was at a restaurant the other day with two of my close friends. We're just getting tacos, and then the table beside us, there were these three girls, and the whole time they got their tacos. I mean, meanwhile, we're stuffing our faces because we're hungry and all that. And then there's that whole minute period where there was, okay, do the Snapchat, and then I saw them switch to Instagram, and then and it's just, can you eat your food?
It's about showcasing it. A shout out to those girls, another shout out, because I feel you, although Katie Jones would agree with Ivanna on this. Let me just enjoy my food.
Your beef is getting cold. Just eat already.
So the final thing that I want to talk about before we wrap things up is the fact that, I just said wrap things up, and I'm sorry, but I thought of Katie Jones, because whenever I say wrap things up, she kind of giggles because she thinks of it as dirty.
I think so too. I'm looking at the time, and I kind of want to just keep going.
I know. Well, I mean, hey, if this is an hour podcast, it's an hour podcast, right?
I think you guys, okay, I don't know if everyone agrees, but I've told Ryan multiple times. At first, well, no, this is the thing. At first I said, do half an hour. People don't really have time to listen. But the thing is, when you're listening to a podcast, you get really into it, and you don't stop, and then half an hour goes by like this.
That's a really good point. And other people have said that they want it longer too. When Katie and I have talked about it, we just feel like our passion and stuff comes out all in that half an hour, and we don't want to drag it on either, right? I think it's the mix. The nice thing about a podcast is that the format can be whatever we want, and if it goes a bit longer one week, then that's okay. Yeah. So I want to mention the fact that you gave me love advice a while back. I was overthinking about this guy. Like, we were on our trip, and he was messaging me about Pride, and I was playing it really cool, by the way, mostly because of Ivanna's advice, and I was playing it so cool. And then when Pride happened, her and I were working at a booth, doing our thing, hustling for the startup that we're working for. We were at this booth, and I literally turned to Ivanna because I knew that this guy who doesn't live in Toronto that I really liked in university, I knew he was there. And I remember turning to why you're smirking? What are you smirking about?
I'm just laughing at this story.
So I turned to Ivanna and I go, Ivanna. I always do, like, I was kind of wanting to. I'm like, Ivanna, just let me text him. Because she knew the whole story, and she's like, play it cool, man. That's her thing. Like, play it cool, man. Like, she always says man. You always say man. It's true. You do, I feel like. Am I wrong?
I have a few phrases that I've been told I say, but I don't notice it.
I think it's man. I think it's like, just play it cool, man.
Really?
I'm trying to think of other ones, too. Listen. She loves doing that. Listen. You do.
Even through text, I'll be like, listen.
Yeah, listen.
Dash.
Yeah. She'll be like, listen. Listen, man. Just let the universe bring you two together. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So I'm like, okay, Ivanna, I'm going to listen to you.
You make me sound as if I'm part of a soap opera.
So we start walking with these racks of this outerwear and like tents and all this stuff like strapped over us, and we're pushing it through Yonge and Dundas Square, like not even like the main part of Pride, like Yonge and Dundas Square with all these people were approaching us and like trying to try it on as we're walking. Yeah,
like, get out of here.
Like, what? Like, we're clearly trying to get somewhere, and as we walk by, I hear someone say Ryan Durgy. And I turn around, and it's the guy. Yeah. And literally, Ivanna was like, just let the universe bring it together. And we talked to him a bit, and I was so excited because Ivanna actually got to meet this guy that I told her all about. And what was your opinion on him?
I know. I'm
putting you on the spot.
I know. I'm looking at him with these just bug eyes. No, I was like, this is a trip and a half. How does that happen?
Yeah.
And exactly, the universe just does weird things.
It's just funny because literally Ivanna's advice was right, was let the universe. Anyways, nothing ended up happening. He didn't invite me out at all to hang out at Pride. So I was like, you know what? Ivanna's jumping into the second IPA. If you heard that there, she's going to open mine too. Let's hear it.
Oh, yeah. But you know what, though? I really wish Katie was here.
I wish Katie was here, too.
Honestly, that one time you guys... Honestly, the best payoff I've ever gotten for a free pro bono job. We just went and got beers.
And why? Because the chats were just so good, or what?
You guys just have a really good... I think that's why I listen to your podcast, because I don't necessarily like a lot of things and a lot of people, but I like you two, and I like your podcast. So that's
so nice. And I don't think it's just the IPA in her that's saying that. You've told me that before. Perhaps, I appreciate it.
I'm kidding.
I want you to tell the listeners, because we always talk about love on this podcast, as you know. I want you to kind of talk to the listeners about maybe when you're into someone, but you don't want to overthink it, but you also don't want to be too cool that they don't message you. Like, what kind of mindset should you be in? Because you've given me great advice with this.
Just play it cool, man.
There we go.
Listen. Wow, that naturally came out of my mouth.
Yep.
I would say people don't like you to be needy, and unfortunately a lot of us are. So there's a difference between, overcompensating, and then there's just a difference where if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And I feel that's what life is. There's no such thing as, we know exactly what path we're gonna go, no, it all just happens. So just go with the flow, and I would say don't overthink it. If you're scrambling and I think there was another episode you guys did, like the texting wars or all of that. Yeah. Don't get into that. Yeah. Life is too short to just be sitting on your phone. I honestly, I think I sound like a hippie this entire episode. Just play it cool, man. Drink beer. Live life. No Instagram. Blah. No, but seriously though, it's just just play it cool. Don't overthink it. You know, if you're already thinking in your head, oh, do I text him? Do I not? Just don't do it.
Before we go, I want you to mention your website, mention social media if you have
is this
any.
the social media bit?
Yeah, but we're doing it at the end this time.
Oh, I have your song
Wow.
memorized. I don't think you guys know.
Wow, that was pretty good.
It goes dun, dun, ch, dun, dun. It goes the @ sign, and then a V, and then an A, and then an N, K, S, C, R, E, A. Wow, I'm forgetting how to spell my handle.
No, T-I-V-E.
Yeah.
Right? Is it
Yeah.
Thanks Creative?
Thanks Creative on Instagram, and then my website would just be www.vankcreative.com. C-O-M. Wow, that's actually the way you guys do it. It's a lot easier when you listen. You're like, oh yeah, but then when you actually have to do it, I feel pressured to spell. I feel like I'm part of a spelling bee right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine is at Ryan Durgy, RYANDURGY on Twitter and Instagram. And Is This Adulthood is at Is This Adulthood, IST. I don't think I have to spell that one actually on Instagram. And then on Twitter, it's ITA_podcast. So also shout out to Katie Jones.
Shout out to Katie. Honestly, you are such a fantastic human, and I mean it when I say that.
She really is. She's awesome. And you are too. And thank you for joining us today. I know it was originally supposed to be me, you, and Katie, but she wasn't feeling well. We hope you get better soon, Katie. And
please get better soon so that we can do another podcast.
I would love that with the three of us, because that would be off the charts. That would be fire, as the kids say.
That's going to be the hour-long episode.
That could be an hour-long episode.
Because I find that you guys just have such a great dynamic.
Aww.
And I think thank you for having me on here.
Thank you for being here.
That was awesome. If anyone is in New York, October 10th to the 14th, I'm going to be showing some stuff there because I got invited to show myself at a show.
That's amazing. Look at you doing big things. Who knows if she'll come back for another episode. She'll be too famous at that point. Katie Jones, where are you at?
Love you, Katie.
Love you too, Katie. All right, thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
See you later.
Oh.